Have you ever noticed a common thread among history's most influential figures? They rarely seem to be constantly in the spotlight. Think of monarchs shielded by palace walls, billionaires who rarely grant interviews, or leaders who step back at the height of their influence. This isn't about arrogance or needless secrecy. It's a deliberate strategy. What if I told you that excessive availability, being constantly visible, subtly diminishes your influence? Today, we're exploring why strategic absence, quietude, and scarcity often wield more power than constant presence, loudness, and easy accessibility. From ancient philosophers to modern psychology, from historical rulers to contemporary CEOs, you'll discover how disappearing at just the right moment can cultivate influence, boost attraction, and even command respect. Hit subscribe and stay with us, because this insight might just revolutionize your approach to life. Niccolò Machiavelli, in The Prince, plainly stated, "A man who is esteemed is not easily conspired against." But true esteem doesn't stem from perpetual presence or endless accessibility. It arises from a degree of distance, from the feeling of someone being just beyond immediate reach. It comes from being missed. Machiavelli understood that rulers needed to meticulously manage their appearances, not to vanish entirely, but to be seen sparingly and only during carefully chosen occasions. In his view, constant exposure wasn't a sign of strength. It was a vulnerability. Perpetual visibility erodes authority, invites intense scrutiny, and dulls impact. Familiarity doesn't just strip away intrigue, it can foster indifference. This concept predates Machiavelli. Centuries earlier, Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "The sage stays behind, thus he is ahead." His philosophy wasn't about force or assertiveness. It centered on subtlety, restraint, and quiet impact. In his worldview, power wasn't overt or attention-seeking. It was felt more than it was explicitly displayed. The less one does, the more seems to be accomplished. The less one appears, the more profoundly one is remembered. It's a paradox that remains relevant. By withdrawing, you generate a magnetic pull. By holding back, you draw others closer. Stillness isn't passive. It's profoundly strategic. Modern psychology supports this ancient wisdom. Robert Cialdini's scarcity principle demonstrates that we inherently value things more when they are rare or limited. Humans are wired to pursue what seems to be slipping away, to desire what isn't easily obtained. We often romanticize what's distant. We become fixated on the unobtainable. The individual who is always present tends to be taken for granted. The one who occasionally recedes from view, they gain a certain gravity. They become an intriguing enigma, and that mystery fuels curiosity. The unknown captivates us far more intensely than what is constantly on display. Real-world applications. You've experienced this in your own life. That friend who always says yes, always available to help or hang out. Eventually, you might stop noticing their efforts. Gratitude can fade into expectation. The colleague who is perpetually online, responding instantly, you might cease to respect their boundaries. But the person who occasionally declines, who sets limits, who isn't constantly at your beck and call, you truly notice when they do appear. Their attention feels like a deliberate choice, not an obligation. That's where true respect begins. That's where influence starts to solidify, not in ubiquitous presence, but in purposeful absence. Let's examine history. In 17th century France, King Louis XIV, the Sun King, mastered this art. He positioned himself as the absolute center of court life, with the nobility revolving around him. Yet, while his influence permeated everything, he himself was seen sparingly. His daily schedule was a public spectacle, but direct audiences with him were rare and strictly controlled. His silence amplified the weight of his words. His distance transformed his attention into a coveted commodity. Nobles vied for mere glimpses, subtle gestures, or tiny signs of his favor. He forged an empire of influence by appearing less, not more. Even in the harsh realities of warfare, absence holds sway. The Mongol general Subutai, one of Genghis Khan's most formidable strategists, was renowned for his army's disappearing acts. They would vanish from the landscape, only to reappear unexpectedly with overwhelming force. It wasn't just his tactics that terrorized enemies. It was the sheer uncertainty, the dread of not knowing his location or when he would strike. He didn't merely win battles, he forged a legend. His power wasn't solely in his actions, but in what people envisioned he was capable of. That's the power of strategic invisibility. Contrast this with Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of immense charisma and skill. His downfall offers a different lesson. After his first exile, he returned from Elba with dramatic flair. But his second reign, the 100 Days, quickly lost momentum. Why? Because he had reappeared too soon. The people hadn't had sufficient time to forget his previous shortcomings. He returned before absence could transform defeat into myth. Instead of inspiring awe, he reminded people of reality. He faltered not from weakness, but from becoming too familiar. Reverence, it seems, necessitates distance. Friedrich Nietzsche grasped this danger. He who fights with monsters should see to it that he himself does not become a monster. More subtly, he hinted at another truth. Excessive exposure to greatness diminishes it. The more you witness something, even something extraordinary, the more commonplace it can become. Icons lose their mystique when they're perpetually in your view. Even deities, to remain divine, must occasionally retreat. Mystery isn't merely aesthetic, it's functional. It keeps reverence alive. Consider the musician who vanishes after an unforgettable album, the romantic partner who pulls back instead of constant texting, or the leader who pauses before speaking. In each instance, what is withheld gains immense power. The silence between interactions, the space between appearances, that's where tension builds. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology confirmed this. People find others more attractive when they are slightly less available. Not so distant as to seem uninterested, but just unavailable enough to spark curiosity. That hint of uncertainty, that's the igniting spark. Even animals instinctively understand this. The alpha wolf doesn't constantly bark, growl, or fight. It doesn't need to. Its power isn't in noise. It's in its decisive presence. It appears at the opportune moment, disrupts the established pattern, and then recedes. The silence is a signal. Its restraint amplifies its authority. That level of control, appearing only when necessary and never when expected, is what commands obedience. Power isn't about volume. It's about impact. And the less you overuse it, the more it grows. Here's a more evocative example. In ancient Japan, the samurai embraced yugen, a profound, subtle form of elegance. It wasn't about ostentatious displays of skill or dominating attention. It was about what remained unsaid, unseen, unflaunted. A master samurai didn't need to prove himself with every movement. He allowed his aura to communicate. He let mystery sharpen his edge. In that culture, overt presence could be risky, but absence, that was considered sacred. Absence forged legends. Fast forward to today, and the pattern persists. Technology moguls like Elon Musk might disappear for weeks, only to return with a single tweet that sends markets into disarray. Beyoncé might drop off the radar, then, seemingly from nowhere, release an album, a visual masterpiece. No grand announcement, just profound impact. That contrast, quietude followed by a storm, is what keeps them larger than life. They don't chase attention, they orchestrate it. That's the strategic blueprint. Even in personal relationships, this dynamic applies. Text too frequently and you flatten your presence. Be overly available and your value can seem automatic. But introduce space, create a little friction, and something shifts. Interest intensifies. A sense of longing grows in the pauses between messages. You become something to pursue, not something that's always simply there. Desire thrives on absence. This isn't manipulation. It's simply human nature. And let's be clear, absence isn't abandonment. It's not about ego or cruelty. It's about intentional space, a deliberate pause that allows your presence to gain significance. It's a statement. You don't get all of me, not without genuine appreciation. That's not coldness. It's clarity. That boundary isn't a wall to keep people out. It's a pedestal that reminds them of your worth. That's not arrogance. That's gravity. So, how do you integrate this into your life? Start by reclaiming your time. Say no more often. Let some messages remain unanswered for a bit. Don't reply instantly just because you can. Don't feel obligated to explain every decision. Skip an occasional social gathering. Allow people to notice your absence. Let them feel the void. That subtle tension they experience, that's influence forming. That silence, that's your presence being amplified. Let them wonder, where is he? Or why hasn't she replied? Because in that moment, you've reversed the dynamic. You've become the one pursued, not the pursuer. You've become something rare. And rarity, in any era, is invaluable. Don't just show up. Arrive. And when you do, make it count. Speak less. Move with calm intention. Let your presence feel like a significant occasion. This isn't about playing games. It's about self-worth. You don't owe everyone constant access. Value your presence like a precious commodity. If you're always readily available, your presence might diminish in perceived value. But if you're rare, strategically rare, your presence becomes a coveted prize. And here's the truth. Influence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg for attention. Influence waits. Influence allows the world to gravitate towards it. So stop being so easily accessible. Step back, create space, make your presence felt by making it rare. And when you do appear, command the moment. People don't pursue what's perpetually within reach. They pursue what they might lose. This is the Beyond the Surface channel. If you gained value from this, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who needs to start strategically pulling back. Sometimes the most powerful action is disappearing. Thank you for watching.